I met Jolene yesterday here in Ensenada. She's here for the 64th edition of the Newport to Ensenada International Yacht Race. And it turns out she used to be a trucker. So we were talking about that, and we were talking about sort of the hype about don't come to Mexico, real scary and all that. So, and I wanted to interview her, so here she is.
Hi.
Hi. Is there? You're done trucking?
Yes. I'm retired.
How many years did you truck?
27.
And you pulled a
Set of doubles, pneumatic tank.
Telling me what you did before you were a school bus driver?
I was a school bus driver for mainstream kids first, and then I did special ed, and then I went into trucker.
And you did have a one long haul experience.
Yeah, we don't.
and it went like some of the other stories I've written about where it was.
Well, let's put it this way: I took Salt to Salt Lake City, and I flew home. Figure out the rest.
Figure out the rest. But you weren't fortunate enough to get a local job.
Yes.
And you worked there for...
Well, I worked for there. That was where my 27 years came in.
Uh-huh.
I'm old, you guys. No, I did about 10, 12 years on school bus driving, and then I did 27 on trucks.
Wow. So you were way, way ahead of your time.
Absolutely.
And did you live in Channel Islands area that whole time?
No. I made my way south from Morgan Hill, San Jose. And then I went to Bakersfield, and I drove truck and I drove school bus in Bakersfield, and I started driving truck again in Bakersfield, and I was transferred from Bakersfield to Oxnard, and so then I worked about 15 years for Vulcan Materials, and that's where, due to the economy, I got laid off about 8 months ago.
Oh, wow. You got laid off truck driving 8 months ago. Wow. And they say there's a driver shortage, you know.
Well, but this is the economy with the company when you can get, when you're paying Teamster drivers and you're paying pension and you're paying insurance and stuff, and they can get a non-union driver come into a union yard, the unions aren't strong enough now anymore to back up, in that respect, to back up the drivers. They got rid of the 2 union drivers and they brought in a non-union man, and then he could haul over hours or whatever. They didn't have to pay pension and they didn't have to pay insurance. And so then I was the lead driver out of 2 trucks, and that was it. I talked to the Teamsters about it, and at this point, with the economy the way it is, they just basically said,
that's the way it is.
And they laid both.
And that's kind of the story that a lot of people aren't really hearing. You know, a lot of people believe all truck drivers are union, but that's not true. And I was working for a company that runs mostly students, and we work cheap. We don't really realize that we are the problem to drive down into cheap freight, because they don't really teach you enough about trucking when you enter truck driver training to realize that you're basically an ongoing cycle of cheaper labor to drive out the experience, and we are in many states kind of crushing the unions in a way with the cheaper labor issue.
When you go to a truck driving school, they're only getting you ready to be able to handle the truck. But any company that hires a driver, they want that driver to have anywhere from 2 to 3 years on the road experience. Like now, I couldn't go, even though I'm accident free, never had a ticket, never had an accident in my car or my truck. If I went to a long haul company, I would have to start at the bottom, the cheap rate, until I got to the point, and then maybe make some more money. But right now, unions are good, okay? But the economy is what it is.
Yeah, it's true. I want to ask you one other question, and that was that you now live somewhere where I grew up as a kid, went to elementary school, Channel Islands area, and you came down here for this yacht race. Have you felt comfortable, though, since you got here in Mexico? You guys have had a great time. You haven't felt, like, threatened or...
Well, you know, now that you mention it, okay, this is 10, 2009, I came up here to Mexico, the same thing, the Anacapa hospitality room, and you saw, it was kind of intimidating, because you saw a lot of the gendarmes with the masks and the heavy-duty guns, and it was kind of, you know, everything was fine, but it just was a little awakening to somebody that had never seen something like that. This year, I don't see any of it. It's very comfortable, and there's just no problem.
Yeah.
I would come down again. I don't know that I'd come down alone, but to come from the United States and into Mexico, just come straight here, there's no problem.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, I think that it's a little stunning for Americans we don't have that kind of stuff in America, so we have a little bit of an insulated life, but when you think about the way people live in Afghanistan or maybe in Iraq, when we're actually there occupying it, they probably have military presence on the street corners. In fact, there's probably lots of countries that are used to having a military presence on every street corner, and I think it's a little stunning for Americans to actually see that when you cross the border and you come, because you're not used to that. Now my family lives close to Camp Pendleton, so to see a military vehicle with a bunch of armed military personnel, because they're training there, is not uncommon. But if you don't live by a military base and you don't see that on a regular basis, you're like, wow.
Well, you know, we hear of everything that we are trying to help other countries and all of this kind of stuff, but like as you say, where I live, or most of the parts of the United States, you don't see this military. You see the military on the bases and stuff, but it's nothing like what they have here, trying to fight the drug cartels. The point is, when I was here 2 years ago, it just was kind of awakening, and then now it seems to be great.
I just want to thank you for sitting and talking to me.
Thank you.
And love talking to you. Love meeting you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Look at the camera. Hey, let's get the crew in here. Yeah, I got it. Come on. Let's go, Dave. Crew dude. You got to get in there, too. Yeah, both of you guys got to get in.
You want me to take pictures? Let me take pictures of all of you.
And you, the twist. Oh, suck it in, everybody.